Derek Vaughn of the Galactic Confederation stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, the Celestial Harbinger, his gaze fixed on the swirling cosmic dust of the Orion Nebula. His tentacles quivered with barely restrained excitement as he addressed his crew, a bizarre assembly of beings from across the galaxy. Some floated effortlessly, others oozed across the floor, and a few were so incomprehensibly alien that no human language could adequately describe them. Puffing out his chest sacs until they gleamed like iridescent soap bubbles, Derek Vaughn's voice resonated with authority. Today marks a historic milestone for our glorious Confederation. At long last, we have pinpointed the homeworld of those primitive bipeds known as humans. A cacophony of confused chirps, whistles, and gelatinous gurgles erupted across the bridge. One particularly excitable Jaxithari swelled to twice its normal size before realizing its blunder and hastily deflating with an embarrassed pop. Yes, I know, Derek Vaughn continued, waving a dismissive tentacle through the air, leaving a faint trail of bioluminescence in its wake. It's difficult to fathom how such a rudimentary species could pose any threat to our galactic dominion, but our long-range scans have uncovered some rather alarming developments. Pausing for effect, he relished the way his crew collectively leaned in, their eye stalks quivering with anticipation. A Clarkon officer, jittering with nervous energy, clinked against his console, his multifaceted surface refracting the starlight into a dazzling display. It appears, Derek Vaughn announced grimly, that these humans have achieved the capability for interstellar travel. A wave of horror swept through the crew. Gasps echoed across the bridge, followed swiftly by the sounds of several beings collapsing onto the floor with soft, wet squelches. The Clarkon officer shattered into 1,000 crystalline fragments, only to hastily reassemble himself moments later, his expression thoroughly mortified. "Oh, pull yourselves together," Derek Vaughn grumbled, rolling all 7 of his eyes in unison, an exasperated spectacle of spiraling motion. "We're not doomed yet. That's precisely why we're here, to eliminate this potential threat before it has a chance to grow." Turning toward his chief science officer, a gelatinous blob known as Vrexer, he demanded, "What can you tell us about these humans and their pathetic excuse for a homeworld?" Vrexer oozed toward the main view screen, leaving behind a glistening trail that smelled faintly of lilacs and quantum instability. "Captain," it burbled, its voice modulator struggling to maintain coherence. "The planet is known to its inhabitants as Earth. It is classified as an M-type world, largely covered in dihydrogen monoxide." "You mean water?" Derek Vaughn asked, his voice dropping to a hushed whisper. A collective shudder rippled through the crew at the mere mention of the dreaded substance. "The very same, sir," Vrexer confirmed, its gelatinous mass quivering with unease. "But that is not even the worst of it. The planet's gravitational force is an unthinkable 1G, and its atmosphere is a toxic blend of nitrogen and oxygen." Horrified murmurs spread like wildfire. A gaseous entity from the methane swamps of Uraketh turned a sickly green, a clear sign of distress for its species. "Great galaxies," Derek Vaughn muttered, his tentacles instinctively curling in on themselves like frightened sea anemones. How could any life form evolve in such a nightmare? Vrexer's amorphous body trembled in what might have been a shrug. "That's not all, sir. The humans themselves are, well, they're utterly terrifying." "Go on," Derek Vaughn urged, morbidly intrigued. He leaned in so close that his breath fogged up Vrexer's outer membrane. "They possess an internal skeletal framework composed of calcium," Vrexer reported gravely, "and they are enveloped in a flexible, self-repairing outer layer." "You mean skin?" Derek Vaughn hissed, his tentacles curling further in revulsion. Several crew members visibly recoiled at the revelation, their bioluminescent patches flickering erratically in distress. Vrexer bobbed affirmatively, its nucleus trembling. "And that is merely the beginning. They have the audacity to be warm-blooded, sir. Their bodies maintain a constant internal temperature, nearly 37 degrees Celsius. The gaseous entity from Uraketh, having only just recovered, immediately fainted again, collapsing into a shimmering puddle on the floor. No one moved to assist it. They were all too transfixed by the unfolding horror. Derek Vaughn's facial tentacles writhed as he attempted to process this information, inadvertently knotting themselves together in his distress. As he struggled to untangle the mess, he sputtered, "So you're telling me that we are dealing with a species of bone-filled, self-repairing furnaces?" "Precisely, sir," Rexer confirmed, its voice modulator crackling with static as it struggled to articulate the sheer depth of its revulsion. "And there's more. They are omnivores." A stunned silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the plop of yet another crew member fainting and the faint, frantic tinkling of the Klarkon officer vibrating in terror. "By the sacred slime pits of Zorlak," Derek Vaughn whispered, at last freeing his final tentacle from the tangled knot. Rexer continued, its voice trembling. "They consume everything, Captain. Plant matter, animals, fungi. If it exists, they will eat it. They cook their food," Rexer continued, its gelatinous form rippling with barely contained horror. "They use fire to make their meals more palatable." Derek Vaughn's tentacles went slack, dangling lifelessly at his sides like overcooked noodles. "These creatures," he murmured, his voice hollow. "They're not just aliens, they are Deathworlders." The terrified chittering of the crew reached a deafening crescendo. The gaseous entity, having regained consciousness once more, promptly fainted again. "Silence," Derek Vaughn bellowed, forcing himself back to composure. A glob of bioluminescent saliva flew from his speech orifice, splattering against the view screen in a pattern that, by sheer cosmic coincidence, spelled doom in ancient Xeon. "We are the Galactic Confederation," he reminded them, his voice steady, commanding. "We have faced countless adversaries and triumphed. These humans may be nightmarish biological aberrations, but they are no match for our superior technology and strategic prowess." He turned to his weapons officer, a sentient crystalline entity named Astrakhan. "Prepare the planetary pacifier," he ordered. "Let's show these Deathworlders the true might of the Confederation." Astrakhan's facets gleamed with murderous anticipation as it interfaced with the weapons system, ready to carry out its captain's command. With the Celestial Harbinger's weapon systems fully activated, Derek Vaughn couldn't help but feel a flicker of excitement. Sure, these humans were a grotesque aberration against the natural order of the universe, but their subjugation would look excellent on his ever-expanding list of accomplishments. He could already picture the accolades, the promotions, the highly sought-after speaking gigs at Galactic Conqueror conventions. Little did he know, down on the surface of that blue-green orb of chaos, a completely average human named Lily Harrison was about to turn his world upside down. Lily was having an absolutely terrible day. It all started when her alarm clock failed to go off, followed by her coffee maker malfunctioning in an impressively dramatic fashion, spilling itself all over her kitchen counter. Now, her ancient car had sputtered to a stop on a deserted stretch of highway in the middle of nowhere. "Oh, come on!" she yelled, slamming her hands against the steering wheel with enough force to make the old vehicle rock on its suspension. "What did I do to deserve this cosmic ass-kicking? Was I Joseph Stalin in a past life or something?" As if responding to her frustration, the car let out a pitiful wheeze, followed by a small puff of smoke rising from under the hood. It sounded like the automotive version of a death rattle. "Fantastic," Lily muttered, as she climbed out of the car and slammed the door so hard that a bit of rust fell off. "This is exactly how I wanted to spend my Saturday, stranded in the middle of nowhere, probably about to be murdered by some banjo-playing hillbillies. Perfect." She popped the hood, releasing a cloud of acrid smoke that had her coughing and flailing her arms like a deranged windmill. Once the air cleared, she peered into the engine compartment, desperately hoping her limited knowledge of car mechanics, gained mainly from binge-watching Pimp My Ride while sick with the flu, would suddenly expand into full-fledged diagnostic skills. It didn't. "Well," she said to no one in particular, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "I can confidently say this is, in fact, an engine. And it appears to be thoroughly gooped by my amazing deductive skills." She pulled out her phone, already knowing what she'd find. No signal. Because of course there wasn't. Why make this easy? The universe clearly had it out for her today and was doing a stellar job of ruining her life, one inconvenience at a time. She debated whether to try flagging down a passing car and risk the potential danger of banjo-playing hillbillies, or whether to attempt walking to civilization, likely dying of heat stroke or getting eaten by coyotes. Just as she was weighing her options, a low, ominous hum filled the air, one that made her fillings vibrate and her primitive instincts scream danger in capital letters, like an air raid siren in her mind. Lily looked up, half expecting to see a low-flying plane or maybe a particularly ambitious swarm of bees with delusions of grandeur. But no, what she saw made her jaw drop in disbelief. A massive, gleaming spaceship materialized out of thin air, hovering menacingly over the highway like the universe's most ostentatious Christmas ornament. "You've got to be kidding me," she breathed, a mix of awe, terror, and profound irritation in her voice. "Aliens, really? Today of all days? What's next? Is Bigfoot going to pop out of the woods and ask to borrow a cup of sugar?" The ship was enormous, easily the size of a football stadium, its sleek, silvery surface dotted with pulsating lights, and what Lily could only assume were energy weapons. Of course, aliens would show up armed to the teeth. They hadn't traveled all this way to enjoy the stellar quality of Earth's customer service or sample our fine selection of gas station sushi. As she stood there, wondering whether this was a hallucination brought on by engine fumes or if the universe truly had it out for her, a beam of shimmering light shot down from the ship. It coalesced into a figure that looked like the unholy love child of an octopus, a Christmas tree, and a disco ball all rolled into one. The alien, because really, what else could it be, fixed its cluster of eyes on Lily and spoke in a voice that sounded like a kazoo being played underwater while gargling marbles. "Greetings, pitiful human," it burbled, its tentacles waving in what it probably thought was an impressive manner, but instead made it look like it was being electrocuted in slow motion. "I am Derek Vaughn of the Galactic Confederation. We have come to subjugate your primitive species and claim your death world for our own." Lily blinked slowly, her brain struggling to process what was happening. Then, because apparently her survival instincts had taken the day off, along with her alarm clock, she burst into laughter. It wasn't a dainty chuckle or a polite titter. It was a full-on, doubled-over, gasping-for-air laugh that echoed across the empty highway. "I'm sorry," she wheezed, clutching her sides as tears streamed down her face. "Did you seriously just say pitiful human with a straight face? Do you have any idea how cliché that is? What's next? You gonna ask me to take you to my leader? Offer to probe me for science?" Derek Vaughn's tentacles twitched in confusion, his bioluminescent patches flashing through a series of colors that might have given an epileptic seizure. This was not the response he had expected. Where was the cowering, the begging for mercy, the soiling of primitive garments? "Silence, you insolent bag of mostly water," he snapped, his voice modulator struggling to convey the full extent of his indignation. "You stand in the presence of a superior being." Lily wiped tears of mirth from her eyes, her laughter slowly subsiding into the occasional hiccuping giggle. "Superior being? Buddy, you look like something— Wow, you look like something I'd find in the discount bin at a Halloween store," Lily said with a dry laugh. "And a bag of mostly water? That's rich, coming from a walking calamari platter. What are you going to do, ink me to death?" Derek Vaughn's color shifted from regal purple to an indignant shade of puce. If he had blood vessels, they surely would have been popping. Instead, several of his smaller tentacles tangled themselves into knots out of pure frustration. "How dare you!" he sputtered, his speech orifice spitting out small globs of bioluminescent spittle that splattered onto the asphalt, spelling out, "You suck," in a bizarre cosmic coincidence. "I'll have you know, I am a highly respected member of the Zalthura nobility," Derek Vaughn continued, his pride evidently wounded. "Aha!" Lily crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow. "And I'm the Queen of England." "Look, Squidward," Lily went on, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "I'm having a really crappy day. My car's busted, my phone's dead, and now I've got to deal with the universe's least impressive alien invasion. So why don't you toddle back to your flying dinner plate, and we can pretend this never happened. I won't tell anyone you came to invade, and you don't have to admit you got your tentacles handed to you by a sleep-deprived office manager. Deal?" Derek Vaughn's eye stalks quivered in sheer rage. Each one vibrated at a different frequency, creating a visual effect that looked somewhere between a lava lamp and a seizure. "You foolish creature," Derek Vaughn barked. "You have no idea of the power at my disposal. Behold!" He pressed a button on his wrist device, which suspiciously resembled a bedazzled Casio watch from the 1980s. With the sound of 1,000 garbage disposals turning on at once, a sleek humanoid robot dropped from the ship, landing with a resounding thud on the asphalt. The robot towered over both Lily and Derek Vaughn, its metallic surface gleaming in the sunlight like the world's most expensive tin can. "This," Derek Vaughn said proudly, his tentacles puffing up like peacock feathers, "is the planetary pacifier Mark I, the pinnacle of our war machine technology. It can level entire cities, crush mountains, and reduce your mightiest warriors to quivering piles of protoplasm." Lily eyed the robot skeptically, tilting her head to one side. "Uh-huh, and does it do windows? Because let me tell you, I've got some hard water stains that are really giving me trouble." Derek Vaughn blinked in confusion, all 7 of his eyes momentarily going out of sync. "What? Never mind," he muttered. Lily sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Look, I get it. You've come a long way. You've got this whole conquer the primitive thing planned out. You probably had a PowerPoint presentation and everything, but honestly, I don't have time for this. So why don't you take your overgrown Roomba and—" She never got to finish her sentence. In a move that defied its massive size, the planetary pacifier lunged forward. Its metallic hand clamped around Lily's throat, lifting her off the ground as effortlessly as if she were a rag doll. "Hey!" she choked out, her feet dangling uselessly a good 3 feet above the asphalt. "Not cool, man. Haven't you heard of personal space?" Derek Vaughn let out a triumphant laugh that sounded like a dolphin gargling mouthwash. "You see, your pathetic human body is no match for our advanced technology. Soon, all of Earth will bow before the might of the Galactic Confederation." As spots began to dance in front of her eyes and her lungs burned for air, Lily felt something familiar bubbling up inside her. It wasn't fear or even anger. No, it was something far more potent, pure, unadulterated annoyance. This alien jackass and his tin can sidekick were really starting to piss her off. With a growl that would have made a grizzly bear reconsider its life choices, Lily grabbed the robot's arm with both hands. Then, channeling every ounce of frustration from her spectacularly shitty day, the failed alarm, the suicidal coffee maker, the broken-down car, and now this bargain bin alien invasion, she did something that, by all laws of physics and common sense, should have been impossible. She bent the robot's arm. The sound of screeching metal filled the air as the planetary pacifier's supposedly indestructible alloy crumpled like tin foil under Lily's grip. The robot's glowing eyes flickered in what could only be described as mechanical panic, if robots were capable of such emotions. "Ooh, what are you doing?" Derek Vaughn sputtered, his tentacles flailing wildly like an octopus in a seizure. "That's impossible! The planetary pacifier is made of unobtainium-reinforced plot divs." Lily, her face turning an interesting shade of purple that matched Derek Vaughn's earlier hue, managed to pry the robot's fingers from her throat. She dropped to the ground, gasping for air, but she kept her death grip on the robot's arm. "You know what?" she wheezed, glaring at Derek Vaughn with eyes that promised a world of hurt. "I have had it up to here with this day, with—" With a roar that was equal parts rage and exertion, Lily yanked on the robot's arm. There was a moment of resistance, then a sound like the world's largest can opener at work, and suddenly, she was holding the planetary pacifier's entire arm. Wires and hydraulic fluids sprayed everywhere, like the world's most industrial piñata. Derek Vaughn's eyes bulged so far out of his head they seemed to be in danger of escaping the planet's gravity. But that's a war machine," he stammered. "It's designed to withstand the gravitational forces of a collapsing star." Lily casually shrugged and tossed the severed arm aside. It landed with a resounding clang, leaving a small crater in the asphalt. "Yeah," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Guess it wasn't built for a hardcore office manager." "Well, it wasn't designed to withstand an irritable human woman, was it?" Lily quipped, eyeing the planetary pacifier, now decidedly less pacific, as it staggered back, sparks flying from its damaged shoulder socket. It raised its remaining arm, energy crackling at its palm, preparing to fire. Lily cracked her knuckles with a devilish grin that would have made a shark second-guess its life choices. "Oh, so you want a rematch? Bring it, Tinker Toy. I've got some rage to work out." And you're looking like the perfect stress ball. What followed would forever be remembered in Galactic Confederation history as the event we do not speak of. Seriously, stop asking about it. We really don't want to talk about it. Running on pure adrenaline and spite, Lily proceeded to tear apart the most advanced war machine in the galaxy with nothing but her bare hands. She dodged energy blasts like a caffeinated squirrel on a sugar rush, ripped off armor plating with ease, as if peeling an especially stubborn orange, and at one point, used the robot's own leg to play an intergalactic version of whack-a-mole with its head. "Come on!" she shouted, her voice a mix of battle cry and manic laughter. "Is that all you've got? My grandma hits harder than you, and she's been dead for 10 years!" Derek Vaughn watched, horrified, as his beloved planetary pacifier was reduced to a pile of smoking scrap metal and sputtering circuits. Lily stood triumphantly on the wreckage, panting heavily. Her clothes were singed, her hair wild, and she looked like a goddess of destruction, if that goddess had just finished a shift in middle management and shopped at Target. "So," Lily said, dusting off her hands and locking eyes with Derek Vaughn, her gaze like a hot iron on steel. "Got any more toys? Or are we done here? Because I have to tell you, this is cutting into my sitting at home and questioning my life choices time." Derek Vaughn's mighty tentacles, capable of crushing titanium and popping open the most stubborn pickle jars, were trembling like overcooked pasta. But how?" he stammered, his voice full of disbelief. "You're just a human, a squishy, water-filled primate from a backwater planet." Lily rolled her eyes so dramatically that she probably saw her own brain. "Yeah, and this squishy primate just turned your war machine into a fancy heap of modern art. Want to try round two? I hear the Louvre's looking for new exhibits." Derek Vaughn's coloration flashed wildly, shifting through a range of terrified hues that would make a disco ball jealous. No, that won't be necessary," he babbled, desperately clinging to his excuse. "I think there's been a huge misunderstanding." "Oh, really?" Lily raised an eyebrow, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Do tell. I can't wait to hear this." Derek Vaughn's tentacles twisted into knots that would make a Boy Scout envious. "When I said subjugate, I meant subjugate with kindness. Yes, that's it. We came to shower your species with gifts and interstellar friendship." Lily crossed her arms, her face a mask of unimpressed disbelief. "Ah, and I suppose that robot was going to give me a hug?" "Exactly!" Derek Vaughn exclaimed, his tentacles flailing with what could only be described as desperate hope. "It's a cultural exchange robot. Yes, designed to, share traditional greetings from various galactic species by, strangling them. Well, you know what they say." Derek Vaughn nervously laughed, the sound reminiscent of a wheezing accordion. "Different strokes for different folks, or, different tentacles for different cenicles." Lily pinched the bridge of her nose, feeling the weight of a headache forming that had absolutely nothing to do with nearly being choked by a homicidal robot and everything to do with how absurd this situation had become. "Look, calamari brain, I've had a really long day. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get back in your flying salad bowl, zoom back to whatever corner of the galaxy you came from, and tell all your little alien buddies that Earth is off limits. Got it?" Derek Vaughn nodded so violently that his eye stalks wobbled like jello in an earthquake. "Oh yes, absolutely. We'll put up warning signs. Declare a no-fly zone. Earth will be more off-limits than a black hole's event horizon." "Good," Lily said, her tone brooking no disagreement. "And if I ever catch you, or any of your little alien buddies, trying this invasion stunt again, I'll introduce you to a little Earth custom we like to call percussive diplomacy. Understood?" Derek Vaughn's entire body bobbed in what Lily assumed was an enthusiastic nod. "Crystal clear, translucent as a Zorbleichen glass worm." "Great," Lily sighed, finally feeling the weight of the day crashing down on her. "Now, if you don't mind, I've got a car to fix and a life to get back to. So, beam yourself up or whatever it is you do. Try not to abduct any cows on your way out." As if on cue, a shimmering beam of light enveloped Derek Vaughn just before he dematerialized. The alien captain paused, curiosity momentarily overriding his terror. "If I may ask," he burbled, his voice modulator still struggling to express his mixture of fear and fascination, How did you do that? Are all humans capable of such feats? Lily considered his question for a moment, then shrugged casually. Honestly, I have no idea. Maybe it's adrenaline, maybe it's some hidden human potential, or maybe, she added with a grin that was half exhaustion, half mischief, you just caught me on a really bad day. She cocked her head to one side, her tone almost playful. Word of advice, though, never piss off a human who's already at the end of their rope. They tend to get a little too creative without actually solving anything, don't they? Derek Vaughn vanished in a flash of light, leaving behind nothing but the faint scent of ozone and a pile of questions. Oh, and a rather expensive heap of alien scrap metal. Good luck explaining that to the highway patrol. Lily stood for a moment, staring at the spot where the alien had been. Then, with a sigh of resignation, she turned back to her broken-down car. Suddenly, it seemed almost trivial compared to the whole alien invasion fiasco. Well, she muttered, popping the hood once more and rolling up her sleeves, at least things can't get any stranger. Although at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if the engine's powered by hamsters and little wheels. As she worked on the car, Lily couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. This morning, her biggest worry was making it to her dentist appointment on time. Now she was an intergalactic badass with a reputation for taking apart alien war machines. Life had a weird sense of humor, she mused. But hey, it wasn't boring. Meanwhile, on the Celestial Harbinger, things were utter chaos. Derek Vaughn materialized back on the bridge, his tentacles still quivering, shifting rapidly through shades of panic that outdid any mood ring ever made. The crew, who had been glued to the main view screen watching the disaster unfold, were in varying states of shock, awe, and full-on terror. What in the name of the cosmic egg was that? Chief Science Officer Glack burbled, its gelatinous form quaking like a sentient jello mold in an earthquake. That, Derek Vaughn muttered, collapsing into his command chair with a wet squelch, was a human. Impossible. Weapons Officer Astrakhan responded, its crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. No organic being could possibly survive the planetary pacifier, let alone destroy it. It's made of unobtainium-reinforced plot armor. Yes, I know, Derek Vaughn groaned, his voice hollow. But this one did, with her bare hands, her squishy, calcium-covered, warm-blooded hands. The bridge fell into stunned silence as the gravity of the situation sank in. If a single human could do that, what could their entire species be capable of? The thought sent a collective shiver through the crew, causing a few of the more gelatinous members to lose cohesion temporarily. Borders? Asked the navigation officer, her insectoid mandibles clicking nervously. Derek Vaughn stared at the blue-green orb of terror floating serenely in space. For a brief moment, he considered ordering a full-scale bombardment to wipe the planet out. But then, his mind flashed to that human's eyes. The casual way she had dismantled their most advanced war machine, the chilling grin she'd worn as she promised percussive diplomacy. A new, unfamiliar emotion began to creep through Derek Vaughn's gelatinous form, something he hadn't felt since he was a young Chakaran, clinging to his brood mother's tentacles. Pure, unadulterated fear. Set course for Galactic Central, he said, his voice trembling. Maximum speed, we need to warn the Council. But, sir, Astrakhan protested, its facets dimming in confusion. Our mission, Derek Vaughn cut it off, his tentacles wrapping tightly around himself. Our mission just changed, from invade the primitive planet to run away from the death world as fast as our warp drives can carry us. Any objections? The crew exchanged glances, and then, one by one, nodded or did something resembling it with their equivalent appendages. Even the gaseous entity, which had finally regained consciousness, pulsed in agreement. Good. Derek Vaughn sighed, sinking deeper into his chair. Let's get the hell out of here before they decide to follow us. Someone, for the love of cosmic slime, get me a drink. Something with tentacle-numbing properties. As the Celestial Harbinger rocketed away from Earth at speeds that made physics tremble in fear, Derek Vaughn couldn't shake the feeling that they had just narrowly avoided poking a sleeping giant. A giant that, when awakened, could reshape the entire galaxy. He made a mental note to update the Galactic Encyclopedia's entry on humans, creating a new category. Threat level. Run for your life. Back on Earth, blissfully unaware of the intergalactic panic she'd just triggered, Lily was elbow-deep in her car's engine. "Come on, you temperamental piece of junk!" she grunted, twisting the wrench with enough force to make the car groan in protest. After the whole alien encounter, the car's engine seemed almost insultingly simple. With a spark, a whir, and suddenly the engine roared to life, somewhere between a satisfied purr and an angry war cry. "Ha!" Lily crowed, punching the air in triumph. "Who needs a mechanic when you've got sheer stubbornness and zero regard for mechanical safety? Take that, universe!" As she climbed back into the driver's seat, Lily caught a glimpse of herself in the rearview mirror. Her hair was a mess, her face smeared with grease, and possibly alien hydraulic fluid, and there were still faint marks on her neck from where the robot had grabbed her. "What a day," she muttered, shaking her head in disbelief. Then, as if the universe hadn't had enough of its antics, a thought struck her like a hammer to the skull. "Oh, crap," she groaned, letting her head thunk against the steering wheel. "How the hell am I going to explain this to my insurance company? Sorry, can't make my payment this month. Had to save the planet from an alien invasion." Yeah, I can already hear the laugh on the other end of the line. As Lily pulled back onto the highway, leaving behind only scorched asphalt and a heap of expensive alien scrap metal, she couldn't help but laugh. It was either that, or scream, and she'd already done more than enough of that today. "Well," she muttered to herself, turning on the radio only to find static, followed by what suspiciously sounded like an alien distress beacon. "At least, I've got one hell of a story for my therapist," Lily mused, reclining on the couch with a beer in hand. "If she doesn't believe me, I can always bring a piece of that robot as a souvenir." Little did she know, her wild story was quickly turning into a tale that would be whispered across the galaxy. Soon, in alien bars and space stations, wide-eyed extraterrestrials would be gossiping about the terrifying death-worlders who could tear apart war machines with nothing but their bare hands, and then calmly fix their ancient combustion engines like nothing had happened. Somewhere, out there in the cold, endless void of space, a certain cephalopod-like alien captain was deeply regretting his career choices. He was seriously contemplating whether it was too late to pursue something less dangerous, like professional lava swimming, or perhaps mastering the art of antimatter juggling. Epilogue. A week later, in an unassuming office building in Washington, D.C., a group of highly serious individuals in dark suits gathered around a conference table. At the head of the table, a woman with salt and pepper hair cleared her throat, her face a mixture of disbelief and resigned exhaustion. This was not how she had expected her week to unfold. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen one too many bizarre things in too little time. "I'm sure you're all wondering why I've called this emergency meeting of the super-secret alien interaction task force." A fresh-faced agent, still carrying that "I joined to make a difference" aura, raised his hand awkwardly. Ma'am, when did we get a super-secret alien interaction task force?" The woman sighed, massaging her temples. "We didn't have one until 3 days ago, Harold. Try to keep up. This is government work. We make up new departments faster than college students make up excuses for missing deadlines." With a click of a remote, an image appeared on the screen behind her. It showed a young woman standing fearlessly against a giant robot, while a tentacled alien creature cowered in the background. The picture, clearly taken from a distance, looked like it was captured by a confused, possibly intoxicated truck driver. "This," the woman said flatly, gesturing to the image as if revealing a root canal, "is why we now have a super-secret alien interaction task force." The room erupted into a cacophony of shocked exclamations, questions, and one very undignified squeak from Harold, who appeared to be rethinking his entire career trajectory. "Settle down," the woman commanded, her voice slicing through the chaos like a hot knife through butter. "Yes, it's exactly what it looks like. We had our first confirmed alien contact, and it was handled by—" She glanced at her notes, squinting. "A 28-year-old office manager named Lily Harrison." "But how?" someone asked, awe and confusion in their voice. "Where was the military? The government? Where was Superman?" The woman pinched the bridge of her nose again, her patience wearing thin. Superman isn't real, Tompkins. And as for the rest, well, it seems Miss Harrison handled it before anyone even knew it was happening. By the time we got a whiff of it, the aliens were already halfway to the Andromeda Galaxy, presumably to change their pants. She clicked to the next slide, which showed the wreckage of the alien robots scattered across the highway. It looked like a junkyard had collided with a modern art exhibit. Holy... Harold gasped, eyes wide. She did that with her bare hands? Apparently, the woman confirmed, her tone still one of disbelief. Which brings us to our current dilemma. Do we approach Miss Harrison? Recruit her? Study her? Or do we just pretend this never happened and hope the aliens don't come back with bigger robots and better anger management? The room fell into a tense silence, the implications sinking in. The idea that one ordinary woman had single-handedly repelled an alien invasion was both exhilarating and terrifying. It raised questions about human potential that no one was really prepared to answer. Finally, a woman at the far end of the table, who had remained quiet through most of the meeting, spoke up. She had been observing carefully, her gaze sharp. "Ma'am, if I may, what does Miss Harrison want?" The leader blinked, clearly having not considered this. I'm not sure. Why?" The woman continued, her voice calm and logical. "She repelled an alien invasion on her own, then just went back to her normal life. Didn't call the press, didn't try to profit from the experience, didn't even post about it on social media. Maybe we should ask her what she wants before we make any decisions." The room fell silent again, and then murmurs of agreement rippled through the group. It was, after all, a surprisingly sensible approach for a government operation. The leader slowly nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "You know what? You're right. Harold, get Miss Harrison on the phone. Let's see if she's interested in saving the world on a more official basis." As the meeting adjourned and the members of the newly formed super-secret alien interaction task force filed out, the leader couldn't suppress a smile. The universe had just gotten a lot bigger, and a lot weirder. But if there were more humans like Lily Harrison, maybe, just maybe, they stood a fighting chance. After all, any species capable of sending an alien invasion packing with nothing but sheer frustration and a bad attitude was definitely not one to be underestimated. Meanwhile, in her small apartment across the country, Lily sprawled on the couch, sipping a beer and flipping through TV channels. She paused on a news report about a mysterious meteor shower, smirking to herself as she recognized the story immediately. The meteor shower was actually just bits of alien technology burning up in Earth's atmosphere. Meanwhile, in other news, the overly cheerful anchor was reporting, "Scientists are baffled by a sudden spike in UFO sightings. However, all reported UFOs seem to be flying away from Earth at high speed. Professor Hawkins from MIT suggests this could be due to our planet's inherent boringness. Back to you, Tom." Lily snorted, taking a long swig of her beer. "Yeah, inherent boringness. That's definitely it. Couldn't possibly be because we scared the crap out of them." Her phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Lily thought about ignoring it. After all, her week had been crazy enough, but something told her she should answer. Maybe it was intuition, maybe the after effects of the adrenaline still running through her, or maybe it was just the fact that after surviving an alien invasion, a mystery caller didn't seem so terrifying anymore. "Hello?" she said cautiously, half expecting to hear burbling alien speech. "Miss Harrison?" a crisp voice replied. "This is Agent Tompkins from the, super-secret alien interaction task force. We were wondering if you might be interested in a job opportunity." Lily took another long swig of her beer, then grinned. Life, it seemed, was about to get a lot more interesting, and this time, she was more than ready for it. "You know what?" she said, sitting up straight, feeling a familiar surge of energy. "I think I might be, but fair warning, I'm going to need one hell of a health insurance plan. Alien invasions aren't exactly OSHA-approved workplace hazards." As she listened to Agent Tompkins's excited rambling about security clearances and non-disclosure agreements, Lily couldn't help but laugh. A week ago, her biggest worry was making it to her dentist appointment on time. Now she was being recruited for a government task force dealing with aliens. Well, she thought, Life's got a twisted sense of humor, but at least it's never boring. And somewhere, out in the vast expanse of space, a certain alien captain felt a shiver run down his tentacles. It seemed like the adventure was just getting started.